Well, nothing is bigger than what's going on in the SEC and with the Alabama Crimson Tide. For the 10th time in the last 13 cycles, Nick Saban's squad can call themselves the #1 recruiting class in the land. Take a look at that. No surprises there. The SEC having the #1 class in the nation for the 14th straight season. I know it's something that we roll our eyes at, but Andrew, it does just mean more.
We couldn't get a Darth Vader mask there for Nick Saban.
We'll have the graphics
What
guys
stands
work
out
on
to me
that.
about this graphic is, look, that's Caleb Downs, what we call one of the safest prospects in the class of 2023. That's Justice Haynes right there. Those are kids that Kirby Smart, who has won back-to-back national titles, spent a ton of time recruiting, right? There was a point, I mean, Justice Haynes' dad went to Georgia. We thought that they were going to go to Georgia, and they're going to Alabama. So it shows that Nick Saban's still got that magic touch. Third best class all time in our rankings, right? Texas A&M last year had that title. Now it's Alabama.
Who had #2 in that class? Alabama, back
Right.
in 2021.
9 composite 5 stars. I know we talk about our 5 stars, but 9 composite 5 stars, that's a record. It's an impressive group.
The Empire strikes back, right? Keeping with that Star Wars theme, and it's a thing with the kind of the battle that he was having with Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban going back and forth in the media, the spat. Maybe that motivated Nick Saban to kind of up his ante and up his antics, and it was, I think, a really fun battle to see, kind of, and the way it all kind of relayed and laid out on the recruiting trail, and they were able to, flip some guys late, the Kadyn Proctors of the world, the Keon Keeleys, and it showed that he still has it as a recruiter.
I was going to say the finish was kind of notable. Desmond Ricks, remember we were playing with the class calculator at the early signing period. They added him. You said Kadyn Proctor. That was the Tuesday before the early signing period. I also think there's a lot of kids in Alabama, the state of Alabama, that Alabama didn't really pursue. They went different parts of the country for the pass rushers. That obviously they got the Carver duo, Qua Russaw, James Smith, but Yonte Pierre as well. But it was interesting how this group came together. And again, I think the real flex for them is Justice Haynes and Caleb Downs, right? And then I guess Kadyn Proctor, you go into Iowa, you get this Iowa kid, and I like what they did at receiver as well. I don't think we talk enough about Jalen Hale. I think he's got wide receiver 1 traits, plays basketball. I loved him. Again, Kadyn Proctor there on the screen. I mean, we can go through a few if you want here, Blair.
Yeah, they have 3 players who are #1 at their position. You've got Keeley, the #1 edge, Kadyn Proctor, the #1 offensive tackle, and #1 safety in Caleb Downs. When it comes to Proctor here, are we seeing him start next season? Is this an instant impact kind of prospect?
Well, that's what I was just going to bring up. It's been pretty rare for offensive linemen to play as true freshmen under Nick Saban. It's been done before, and all 3 of the ones that did it are all playing on Sundays. I think it's Evan Neal, Jonah Williams, and Cam Robinson. They all got time as true freshmen, went on and are now playing, making a paycheck on Sunday. So to me, Kadyn Proctor, I think he could be ready to go based on what we saw in San Antonio from him. They need help on that offensive line, probably going to return 2 starters. They haven't been really in the transfer portal yet to find some stop gaps or some veterans. So I do think Kadyn Proctor will be on the field for them.
Yeah, and he's going into Tuscaloosa with that mentality, right? I remember what he told Alan True about why he was decommitting from Iowa and flipping to Bama is he wants to go and be a part of a pond that has other big fish, right? Doesn't want to be the alpha at Iowa and maybe not get better or not improve in practice and just kind of go through the motions. At Alabama, he's going to be tested. He's going to be going up against Keon Keeley in practice. He's going to have to match up with Yonte Pierre, and that's going to make him better. And so I would not be surprised that midway through the season, we do see Kadyn Proctor thrown into the fire at Bama. It's been done before, like you mentioned, Andrew, and he's got all the tools. He was super impressive all year, and obviously why he's, obviously the #1 offensive tackle in this class.
He said we don't talk enough about the wide receivers in this class. Who else? I mean, you had the platform. You got like 6 cameras staring you in the face. Who should we be talking about in this class?
Olasalinen, right? Offensive lineman. He is a super unique story. I keep saying that, right? But I feel like I know this class so well, like the back of my hand. He's originally from Finland, grew up playing like hockey. He told me his favorite NHL player. I think it's Alexander Barkov, but I could be wrong. big question marks about him. We saw about the Future 50. He was super raw, had no idea what he was doing during one-on-ones. And then I thought at the Under Armour All-America game where there was a ton of elite pass rushers, he held his own during one-on-ones. And it might be a little far-stretched or far-fetched to think he's going to be on the field here in 2023, but I think he's kind of ahead of the curve or further along than I thought. And we mentioned it, Alabama needs some help up front. And I think a lot of guys in this class, which now ranks as the best recruiting class as all time, I think they're going to play, right? We talk about Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, Kadyn Proctor. What about Olas Alinen? I think he's kind of a dark horse to maybe push for some playing time, as crazy as that sounds, because offensive line is not easy to play in the SEC.
Yeah, for me, Yonze Pierre, we mentioned it earlier, Keeley steals a lot of the headlines, a lot of the spotlight. He might go and creep into the shadows and turn into maybe the best edge rusher that they have in this class. He was dynamic the whole week in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl, really explosive off the edge. I love his get-off. I love his tenacity, and his motor is, I think, what stands out to me about him the most. And then we have to talk about the quarterbacks. It's Alabama, right? Yeah. Eli Holstein committed earlier, backed off of that A&M commitment, had flipped, and then they ended up getting Dylan Lonergan as well. So, when you think about quarterback, and the big apple for Bama was Arch Manning, right? They were one of the 3 finalists for the #1 overall prospect in this class. They have to, in a way, settle for these 2 others, and I don't want to make us get clipped later on in the process, because it's going to happen maybe 3 or 4 years, and we're hearing about this moment. But I feel like that's the biggest question mark with this class.
100%. I was told not to follow, but I agree.
Well, I have a follow-up for you here. You've talked extensively about Yonze Pierre, but just overall, this edge rusher class, what's your evaluation?
I think Yonze Pierre is kind of everything you're looking for from an evaluator standpoint as a 3-4 jack linebacker, right? He's tall. He's kind of underdeveloped. I remember I was walking around in San Antonio, wasn't familiar with the roster yet. I showed up a little bit late coming from the Under Armour All-America game. I think I stopped Cooper. I was like, who is that? And that was Yonze Pierre. So he can attack the edge, he can bend, he can get after that quarterback. Blair keeps talking about him and just what he brings to the table. Would it be surprising if he's better than Keon Keeley? Yeah, or maybe not, but I'm betting on Keeley, right? Yeah. They call him the Viking. Mom is from Norway. I said it earlier. He sings in the choir. Brilliant kid off the field. I think his ability to, take away and eliminate throwing lanes with his big paws, and then as you just saw it right there on film, how he closes. And Keon Keeley, when he really put his name on the national scene was against Arch Manning as a junior. Tampa Berkeley Prep. Look, see, there's Arch Manning throwing right there. Keon Keeley picking him off, going up there and getting it. So 2 great edge rushers, and they got some other good guys in the interior. Qua Russaw, like we said, and James Smith.
Yeah, really good class. I know it's going to blow your minds here, but for the 4th time in the last 5 years, SEC teams are ranked #1 and #2.